Agarré ahí, patrona.
Oh.
Agarré duro.
Oh, sí, está pesado. Está pesado. Yo no sabía que estaba
What,
tan...
is it?
Yeah, it's heavy.
Put it on.
A ver, claro, patrón, ¿cómo es que sí? Métela ahí.
Yo no soy un santo, pero estoy en clave. Estoy pagando todas mis maldades. Y estoy aquí tirando.
Okay, so a New Mexico judge has just abruptly resigned after an alleged Tren de Aragua member was arrested at his home. Venezuelan national Christian Ortega Lopez was arrested in February. So, a New Mexico judge resigned from the bench after an alleged Tren de Aragua gang member was arrested at his home. Doña Ana County Magistrate Judge Joel Cano's registration letter is dated March 3rd, but a spokesman for the Administrative Office of the Courts, AOC, told Fox News Digital it was not received by the Supreme Court and 3rd Judicial District Court until March 31st. Back in January, Homeland Security investigations Las Cruces began looking into Venezuelan native Christian Ortega Lopez, quote, an illegal alien from Venezuela and a suspected member of a criminal gang, end quote, who was, quote, residing with other illegal aliens, end quote, in possession of firearms, according to court documents obtained by Fox News Digital. And yes, at the beginning of this video, that really was apparently video of them hanging out in the judge's home, chopping it up. The gang member is showing off a gun to the judge's wife, presumably, and the judge himself, and they also took a picture together. I mean, on the one hand, this is deeply disturbing and appalling. And on the other, this guy is currently the coolest judge in the country. Yeah. Don't know of any other judges that are associated with gang members. Pretty cool. Pretty good for him, right? Lots of street cred. Just kidding. But this is, I don't even know. Like, it feels like Tren de Aragua popped up overnight, practically. You know, like we heard about them in towards the middle end of the Biden presidency when Twitter really became a full free speech zone. And now we have a judge in New Mexico who's just hanging out with a Tren de Aragua member. It makes no sense to me. I mean, it does. There's obviously corruption going on here. They're probably bribed. That's how this Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang has gotten as far as Tennessee. I can put two and two together here, but it's still just astounding to see this. It's really like, man, we are in clown world. I have been thrown for a loop. But continuing, on February 28th, 2 search warrants were executed at a home investigators identified as owned by Cano's wife, Nancy Cano. Ortega Lopez and his roommates were taken into custody, and agents seized 4 firearms from April Cano's residence. April Cano is the daughter of Nancy and Joel, court documents state. Ortega Lopez was found by investigators posing with weapons in social media posts, some of which he said were owned by April Cano, who, quote, allowed him to hold and sometimes shoot various firearms, end quote. Ortega Lopez admitted to illegally entering the U.S. from Mexico in December 2023, according to court documents. He allegedly told investigators he was living in an El Paso apartment with 5 others when he met Nancy Cano, quote, to install a glass door for her, end quote. Okay. Quote, he continued to do a few jobs for Nancy Cano, and after being evicted from the apartment in April 2024, Nancy Cano offered her casita in the back of the residence she shared with her husband, Joel Cano, end quote, court documents state. The suspect made his first appearance in a Las Cruces court on March 3rd. During a detention hearing on March 14th, U.S. Magistrate Judge Damian L. Martinez, quote, asked Assistant United States Attorney Maria Armijo if she knew Judge Cano, end quote. When Armijo said she did not, Judge Martinez said he had met him outside the courtroom several times, adding, quote, I don't think he would just let anybody live in his property, end quote. Martinez ruled Ortega Lopez, quote, was not a flight risk or danger to the community, end quote, and ordered him to be released. On April 8th, a motion was filed by an assistant U.S. attorney to reconsider Ortega Lopez's pre-trial release order. Yeah, of course he's not a flight risk when a judge just lets him live in his home. Or, excuse me, casita. But as you know, liberals have to do this whole pretending it's not happening when it is, and that's a good thing. Because here's NPR running defense for Tren de Aragua saying, what is Tren de Aragua's footprint in the U.S.? Experts say smaller than federal officials say. Ooh, oh man. Oh, experts said this? I trust them more than federal officials. Yup. Tren de Aragua must be a whole storm in a teacup. Trump must just be a crazy dictator worried about nothing. This isn't a real problem. Nope, not at all. Man, I trust those experts. But seriously, how dystopian can you get with a headline like this? You want to know why liberals are losing their minds? You know why it's like they live in some sort of parallel reality? It's because the media is gaslighting us. There couldn't be a more black and white example of it than this. All right, but now before we get into anything else, here is apparently a video of this Christian Lopez Ortega Tren de Aragua gang member guy shooting guns.
Suéltala ahí, ¿qué? Suéltala ahí. Suéltala, mi compadre. Andamos jugados. Ya no vaya, ya. Entonces, para esta mierda, caballero.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here again. Pretty cool for this judge. I don't know about you guys, but I do not have this level of street cred. America is going down the drain, but people have never been cooler than ever. No, but on a serious note, this country is probably going to look like Brazil in the next 20 years. And a lot of you in my audience, I know you're going to say, oh, well, it already does. Yes, you get my point. But I remember a while ago, I had this video where I was speculating on potential outcomes, potential future Americas, and it seems like we are headed for Brazilification. Months ago, a friend and I were debating what would happen, what the outcomes would be if Trump won. And we thought that this country would essentially turn into a more powerful version of Brazil with a Trump presidency. That was the good ending. Unfortunately, the alternative was some sort of horrible, indefinite Democratic uniparty, which is not entirely off the table, but still seems less likely. It seems like we're going to have some rule of law issues, right? It's going to be harder to persecute people, thankfully, because this nation's police force, everything will just be so disorderly, so corrupt, so disorderly. But we're not going to be able to fully eradicate the issues with rampant crime and fixing the problem of the fact that this country has really no cultural cohesion anymore. Like nothing's holding this together except for like a couple institutions. You know, there's no unifying narrative for this country anymore. And NPR's gaslighting is a prime example of that. Literally trying to downplay the severity of having an international crime organization operating in this country. But here's another video of something I just stumbled upon recently on Twitter, which I thought was not only interesting, but also germane to the issue at hand.
We have to understand also something of the Tren de Aragua, the TDA. It's a state-sponsored Maduro regime organization. They learn how to do that because Maduro taught the prison gangs to do that. Tarek El-Aissami, who was Secretary of Justice in my country, he studied criminality and he understood the criminal mind. But it's not for good. He used that for evil. And he understands that the criminal mind how to use the criminals to control the society, the Venezuelan society first, and then, well, that is a big opportunity also to spread this for all Latin America, to take the virus like a socialism virus all over Latin America, and then go to the US.
All right, so that was a video of a former Venezuelan military officer claiming that Tren de Aragua is a tool of the regime in Venezuela to spread terror and chaos in the United States. Now, this isn't something I considered previously, but it isn't entirely surprising. Here's why. I remember commentaries on the changing nature of warfare, and many so called experts believed that in the near future, wars would be waged not by nation state against nation state, or global hegemon against global hegemon, because that would be very costly. And there are things like mutually assured destruction with all the nuclear weapons and whatnot, but sort of by these decentralized terror organizations, sort of like ISIS, or in this case, like Tren de Aragua or MS-13, these sort of informal, decentralized, international crime syndicates that like traffic drugs and, kill people, terrorize people, that are very vicious and violent, but don't confront states in like a conventional way. These people are not, squaring up against the US military in a typical way that you would expect. And of course, I've also had a hunch for a while that a lot of these countries are sending their criminals, sending their riffraff into first world nations. I'm pretty sure, I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure somewhere Saudi Arabia basically just admitted that or something. Some Middle Eastern country was like, yeah, we just send all of our derelicts into Europe. So you're literally getting the worst of the worst. On the one hand, they don't want to have to deal with them, so they just send them somewhere else. And they go from criminals to asylum seekers or something like that. But then on the other hand, it also may be a concerted effort by hostile foreign states to destabilize the US. Could be both. And I mean, if indeed this is what Venezuela, the Maduro regime, has done, then bravo, bravo. You may be a socialist hellscape, but nice move. This is certainly a problem for the US that we have to address. But I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Is this nothing but typical corruption? Is this a sign of more things to come in the future? The blending of state and non-state actors, a new decentralized horizontal type of warfare, to sound pretentious about it? Or do you think this is something that the Trump administration will be able to handle? I personally don't think so. I think Trump is a fantastic step in the right direction, but really, if we want to work ourselves out of this quagmire that we found ourselves in, it'll take several generations of people making the right choices, which I find highly unlikely. But anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give this video a like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to monetarily support me, consider going down into the description section and subbing to me on Patreon, because that would be a major help. Sharing these videos is also another, please do that. Super helpful. More eyeballs watching this video, great. But that's all for now. Shout out to my 3 loyal patrons, Tara, William, and of course, General Jack Ripper.